Hey, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
And you're watching Tesla Time News.
Episode 182.
On Now You Know.
Brought to you as always by our wonderful Patreon patrons who support us on Patreon. Get some great perks, including this upcoming week where we're going to be doing a live stream with our $8 and above Patreons.
And as Amazon associates, we earn from qualifying purchases. The link is down below and it helps us out quite a bit.
And we're brought to you by ecoware.us. Start positive conversations with carbon negative products. And this week, we've got a new design.
I like that one.
Everything's Giga in Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a classic saying that everyone knows.
Is that what the saying is?
Yeah, it's everything's Giga in Texas.
Oh, right. And sponsored by our good friend Sobi up in Canada at Avoto Rentals, where you can rent a Tesla Model S, X, or 3. Now, Avoto has now expanded into new cities. They always operated in Montreal, you remember that, but now you can rent a Tesla from them in Toronto and Ottawa, Canada. They deliver to major hotels, offices, and even homes, and you can pick up one in one city and drop it off in another city. Now, tell them that Now You Know sent you, and the next 5 customers who book a car with them in 2020, guess what they get?
I don't know. Deals like this usually get like, oh, a sticker.
You get 2 free days of rental if you book 2 days or more.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's
quite a deal.
huge.
Yeah. They're the nicest people you're going to meet. We highly recommend them. So go check out Avoto the next time you're doing some Tesla traveling in Canada.
So our friend Dennis and many others are reporting on getting emails from Tesla saying that their deliveries will be starting very soon.
Why is that news? I mean, they've been delivering Model S, X, and 3 for the longest time.
No, this isn't Model S, X, or 3.
What is it?
The Model Y.
Wait, Model Y deliveries are starting now?
Yes. So the earliest that anyone has seen is March 15th.
Yeah, and it seems to be spread all over the country. We can't really see like a pattern whether it's going to be East Coast or West. It seems like Tesla's just sending them out to kind of everybody.
Right.
Now, we get reports from nowyouknow with photos on Facebook of a few dozen Model Ys being stockpiled in the Tesla Fremont factory parking lot.
The interesting thing here is that Tesla is delivering both the all-wheel drive and the performance and, according to Electric, rear-wheel drive Model Y reservation holders.
And that's funny because I've heard that both black and white interiors are also being offered. Now, you remember when Model 3 rolled out, you could only get black interior and long-range rear-wheel drive.
Right. The only thing you could change were the wheels and the paint. That was it.
Wow. So that's a lot of different possible options.
Yeah. This is really huge. I think that this points to the Model Y ramp, the production hell of the Model Y, being a lot nicer than the production hell of the Model 3.
Now, we also get these pictures here from Seasoned Tech, who tweeted out that the ground clearance seems to be about, 3/4 of a water bottle?
Yeah, he didn't have a tape measure, so he had to use a water bottle. It's not completely clear exactly what the ground clearance is, but we're guesstimating that it's about like 7.5 inches, which is about 1.5 inches or 38 millimeters more ground clearance than the Model 3. So just in case you were like, oh, I want an SUV with more ground clearance than a Model 3, I don't know, is 1.5 inches good enough for you?
That's a pretty decent ground clearance for, for a crossover.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going off-roading in it necessarily.
And then Sterling Picton shared photos with Electric of Model Ys in front of Tesla's engineering building in Fremont. Keep in mind that these cars had notes on the seats saying that they needed tweaking to things like the interior fitment, the exterior fitment, and the UI. So these may not be actual delivery-grade cars yet, but take a look at these photos up close, and you can see that the only thing I could pick out of here that was noticeable was that there was a slight panel gap on one of them where the panel just seemed to be a little bit high. But I mean, that's kind of normal in early production cars where you're still tweaking production.
Right. And also, it's not something that everyone cares about. Like for me, I don't, like my car has some panel gaps that some people will walk over and be like, oh, geez, your panel gaps. And I'm just like, dude, I do not care. I get to drive this car everywhere in the world. It's like a little spaceship that I get to drive around on Earth. So I'm not going to be complaining about the panel gaps.
Our reporter in Germany, Alex, reports on Giga Berlin's construction site update. Check this out.
Hi Zach, hi Jesse, hi everyone. This is Alex from Germany and I'm calling you from the site of Giga Factory 4, which is right here. And this is how it looks today. But before we see more, I want to show you something. This is a sign of the service that takes away the bombs from World War II. And I drove through the woods next to the site. So this is how the whole site looked a couple of days ago. Trees everywhere. And this is from today. So when I arrived, first of all, I saw a white Model X from Munich, Tesla headquarters, Germany, and it's pretty dirty. So they looked at their construction site, I guess, where they put some cables into the ground the whole day. So this is a power supply. And this is how the site looks today. All the trees have been cut down. They just left a couple of those. Wood everywhere. Woodworkers transporting the trees. And here you can see a truck and lots of wood. This is the construction site. This is the Autobahn sign. So let's check that out. Let me do a fast forward. So it's next to the site of the Gigafactory 4. And here comes an interesting street sign. This sign was for open speed limit. So now, if Elon Musk comes to Germany, he can go on the Autobahn and just drive as fast as he wants. I think that's a pretty cool fact. So I'm going pretty fast right now. It's kilometers per hour, 100 miles. But still pretty cool. Now you know.
Well, thank you, Alex. That is really cool. I feel so honored that we have people around the world who are just sending us what's going on in their neck of the woods, and well, literally in their neck of the woods here.
Yeah. I mean, because, if someone else was like, oh, why don't you go drive to the middle of nowhere and get some footage of a field?
Right.
I'd be like, I don't know. I think I'm going to stay at home.
And thanks to Emil Senkel, at Emil Senkel on Twitter, for this map of Giga Berlin. Kind of puts it in really good perspective as what we're looking at here. And what you're seeing now is footage from Tesla Kid Grunhind. He has a YouTube channel, really good YouTube channel. Go check it out because he's got great drone shots of the Giga Berlin construction site. But when you're looking at the field, it may not be clear, like, where's the factory going? But this map helps you kind of put that into perspective. And as of February 26th, it appears that all of the trees have been cut down for phase 1, so that's 90 hectares. I was confused when I saw the drone footage because there appeared to be 4 trees kind of randomly left up. And I'm like, are those going to be like for shade in the parking lot?
It's a decoration, right? You want to...
Well, I couldn't figure it out. But then Alex found out that it's because there were bats living in those trees and they had to have them professionally removed first. And it appears that they have been. So they've been safely removed, moved on to another bat home, and then they took the trees down. But I mean, look how fast they did that. And as Alex pointed out, they had to get it done because I think the deadline was March 1st. Or else they would have had to leave the trees up until the end of bird mating season, like we mentioned last week, which would have been in the fall. So good news here is that it looks like phase 1 is complete and we can move on to phase 2.
So that's really interesting. And if you take a look at the map for a minute, obviously Gigafactory Berlin is going to fit right in there. Keep in mind that this is just a quarter of what the total could look like, because basically you just kind of flip that, once over and then over again, and you get the full, Gigafactory layout that we've seen before in one of the Tesla's images. And so you can see that basically right now this is just enough for one section of the smaller Gigafactory plus some parking area. So, I mean, I wonder if this is just going to be the Model Y factory, and then they'll do like a Model 3 factory, and then they'll do like a Cybertruck, or maybe even the Model 2, or, whatever people want to call it. And then maybe even the Tesla Semi.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just more Model Ys because Europeans love hatchbacks.
So check out this ultra-compact new electric car from Citroën. It's called the Ami. It costs about $6,000.
Wow. I can't quite get a good sense of scale on it.
It's tiny. Really tiny. It's got a 5.5 kilowatt hour battery and a 6 kilowatt motor for a 77-kilometer range. That's about 44 miles. It has a top speed of only 45 kilometers an hour. That's 28 miles an hour. So it's only for urban and small community driving. And get this, a 14-year-old in France and 16-year-olds in Europe can drive this car under the quadricycle regulations.
So I mean, if you're looking at it, it's really blurring the lines between an e-bike and like a small electric car.
Yep.
It looks almost like injection molded on the front. Like that's not metal.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything to keep the weight and the cost down. And because there's different safety regulations for these cars, I don't think they have to worry too much about making it ultra safe.
You know, when we're talking about e-bikes and e-mobility, e-bikes are great because obviously it's like a bike, but you don't have to do as much work, so you don't get to work as sweaty. But the problem is, it's raining. I guess I got to take my car, or I got to take the bus, or I got to take an Uber, right. So with this, I mean, you get all of that, coverage. I just wonder, it's just like one step up from like a Velocycle. Mm-hmm. One of those like just basically take a bike and then put a bunch of
covers
cardboard around it, I mean, it looks really nice and it's a great price.
Yeah, and you can also get it where you put down about 2,500 euros and then you pay about 20 euros a month as a subscription. So it makes it even cheaper for some people. So this should be available this year in France, either through direct consumer or they're going to have a few showrooms, and then it's going to spread to other European countries. So I would ask, if you happen to get one of these, or if you take it for a ride, please send us a video contributor story about it, because I'm really intrigued. What's weird about it is you would think, being so small, that it would have a great turning radius. Turns out it has a worse turning radius than a Leaf.
Right, a 7.2 meter turning radius. I'm assuming that's just because they didn't allow the wheels to turn enough, even though the wheelbase is so small.
Right. Now, maybe that's something to do with the quadricycle regulations. I don't know.
I don't know either.
And then we've told you about the Microletta. That's another small car. That's the $13,600 one-door, four-wheel EV with about 10,000 pre-orders. Mm-hmm. Well, it has now been renamed the Microletta 2.0 with an updated look. And that's because of a small lawsuit that happened. I liked the more classic look better, to be honest. This newer look isn't like exactly, I don't know, there's something about that classic 60s look to it.
Right, it looked more classic.
Yeah.
Right.
Micromobility Systems has also announced the release of the Microletta, which is a three-wheeled scooter. So these have two front wheels that tilt for more stable ride, and Europeans won't need a motorcycle's license, just a driver's license to drive it.
And the Microletta, the scooter, will have speeds up to 50 miles an hour, and it'll have two batteries for 62 miles of range, or 100 kilometers.
And the price for the scooter is going to be $5,400.
Wow, so it's like scooter or the Ami. I don't know. I mean, that's a tough choice.
It is. I mean, because the scooter's going to go faster.
That's true. That's such a weird thing. Usually you don't think about it like that. And this is where I feel like cities would almost benefit from changing the way that they work. Because, I mean, imagine if the only cars that were allowed on the road were these little teeny tiny, soapbox cars.
Right.
Because if all the cars on the road were like that and they weren't able to go that fast, then there's not as much risk for everyone, like getting into an accident. It does mean that you're probably not going to travel long distance on them, but imagine the parking situation. Now you can suddenly fit, we can fit twice as many cars on a block.
Exactly.
But then again, it's really hard to change cities because we built them and that was expensive.
So, Jesse, how much time do you think that major broadcast networks, so ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox, devoted to climate change coverage in 2019?
All right. So, I mean, 365 days a year. If they did an hour of coverage a day, that would be way too much. Let's say it's like 50 hours a year for each of them.
So you think 200 hours a year?
200 hours a year for all four.
Okay, the answer is 4 hours. Not each, total. In 2019, there was 4 hours of total climate change coverage on those four major networks.
What? Wait. 4 hours total between four...
Yeah. So Media Matters for America released a report on Thursday stating that climate coverage as a whole made up only 0.7% of overall corporate broadcast nightly and Sunday morning news shows in 2019. Now, the news shows aired 238 minutes of climate change coverage this past year. The good news is that's up from 142 minutes of coverage in 2018, but much of this increase was driven by CBS, which gave more time to and aired more segments about climate change than ABC and NBC combined. But here's the bad news. This is less coverage than the networks gave in all of 2017. So it was up and then down.
4 hours?
Yeah. Now, to give you some perspective, PBS NewsHour aired 121 climate segments, which was more than ABC, CBS, and NBC combined. And interesting here, if you look at this graph, most of the coverage that the networks did give was right there in September. And guess who was visiting in September?
The Pope?
Greta.
Oh.
So if it weren't for Greta, there probably wouldn't have been hardly any coverage at all.
This is troubling.
Yes.
This is like if there was a war. It's like if we were in World War II and they gave 4 hours of coverage a year.
Right.
It was like, oh, and also apparently we're in a war. Everything's going very badly. And on to local news. A puppy was found licking a lollipop. Isn't that adorable? I can't believe this.
Yeah. Well, that's what we say every week on the show. I mean, these corporate broadcast entities are corporate. They make their money through advertisements, and who, as we pointed out, are doing most of the ads? Big auto, big oil. They don't want to hear about climate change. Wow. Doesn't help their story. But some good news here. National Express, which is a UK-headquartered public transportation company, they announced that it intends to become the first zero-emission transport group in the UK. It says it will drive a net zero bus fleet by 2030 and a net zero coach fleet by 2035.
They said that they will bring electric coaches into service by 2021. The company said that they will never buy another diesel bus again.
Woohoo!
I
like to hear that.
I like to hear stuff like that. I like to hear actual commitments. It's one thing to give a number like, 2030. To me, if that's all they had said, I would have been like, whatever. Like 2030, 10 years from now?
Right.
Like, you don't even remember 10 years prior.
But this is their business, buses, and they said never another diesel bus. I like that.
I like that.
So Audi is claiming that its new e-tron S model will be, quote, the first electric cars worldwide with 3 motors in mass production. The 3 electric motors, 2 of which are located on the rear axle, together provide 370 kilowatts of boost power and 973 newton meters of torque. This allows the 2 purely electrically driven models to accelerate to 100 kilometers an hour in 4.5 seconds. The intelligent drive control raises vehicle safety and dynamic handling in particular to a new level. In addition to the electric all-wheel drive, there is the electric torque vectoring with active and fully variable torque distribution on the rear axle.
e-tron S model, is this what it's going to be called?
Yep.
S model.
That's what they said.
Okay. Then it's going to have 3 motors.
Yeah, so it'll be the first they claim to production with 3 motors.
0 to 60 of 4.5 seconds.
Here's what I think is funny about
No. We're talking about the 4.5 seconds.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. What? You have Teslas out there now, like Model 3, 2 motors, way faster 0 to 60 times than that.
Yep.
If you're putting 3 motors in this thing, I totally understand the torque vectoring. That's super cool. It's going to be great in the snow and the sleet and the rain and the ice and the mud, everything. That's great. But put a little more juice in there. Put a little more oomph if you're going to do 3 motors.
Well, here's the thing. Because they don't have the numbers, Audi just keeps coming up with these press releases to make you think they're doing stuff. It's just constant press releases of like, we're coming out with the first tri-motor in production. Who cares if you're not making a great car? Well,
and then my second pet peeve here is that e-tron just announced recently that they had a delay in deliveries because they didn't have enough batteries.
Right.
So this, in mass production thing,
right?
What do you mean by mass production? Because, it's totally cool if you roll, a couple thousand off the line and then you're like, well, we ran out of batteries. Sorry. So that's where I'm like,
I hear you.
Like when the Cybertruck comes out, the tri-motor Cybertruck or the Roadster or maybe even the Plaid Model S, who knows what the Plaid Model S is going to have. Those are going to have 3 motors.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're rolling out more units. They're just saying, we might be the first.
That's exactly it. Exactly. Now, the e-tron Sportback is coming to the U.S. later this year, but Audi didn't confirm the timing for the tri-motor S version of the electric vehicle.
Okay, so it's the Sportback S model.
Yes.
Gotcha.
But it's still got an S in there.
So a mine in Australia is choosing to power itself with renewable energy as opposed to a natural gas pipeline.
Well, that's good.
It's kind of interesting if you read between the lines in this quote here from CEO Andrew Cole of Oz Materials, a nickel and copper mine. At the NPC level, a gas pipeline with a gas supply versus a renewable energy farm with a renewable energy supply on the current flow sheet is actually quite comparable in terms of value. So they're actually quite line ball to one another. We know that renewable energy is getting more efficient, less cost to build them, and produce lower cost energy if you look backwards. Converse to that, what we know is there's more pressure on carbon. You've got to start making assumptions about carbon price and gas price escalation. The interesting thing about this quote is that he's basically saying, you know, whether we built a natural gas pipeline or whether we built renewable energy, it would cost about the same. But he said looking forward, they are thinking that it's going to cost more for carbon sources. Now, that could either be the price of natural gas, which doesn't seem like that's getting any higher anytime soon, but carbon pricing. I think that he sees the writing on the wall, especially in Australia, that just had the worst bushfires ever. That has really, really changed the political climate, if you will, in Australia. And I think that he sees the writing on the wall that carbon pricing is probably in the works.
Yeah, so I mean, that's really cool that for this $1 billion project, they're going to be choosing wind and solar to provide 80% of their power needs. Now, if you're thinking about getting solar on your roof and you're kind of like, I don't really know, there's so many choices, we hear you. There's a lot of choices and it can get pretty complicated. We recommend you guys go to Energy Geeks, renamed now as Energy Pal, who can really help you with your decision making. They're a bunch of people who know so much about this, and they'll take the time to explain it all to you. So head on over to them. The link's down below in the show notes. Tell them that Now You Know sent you, and they'll do all that work for you for free.
Okay, so I don't know if you've heard this, but the Tesla Model 3 sales have dropped in China in January.
What?
Yeah.
They just started making them. What are you talking about?
Bloomberg reported last week that 3,563 Tesla cars were registered in January. That's down from 6,643 in December.
FUD alert.
No. This is real. It's really bad. The sales.
FUD alert. FUD alert. FUD alert.
What?
All auto sales were down in China in January because of a little thing called
coronavirus.
The factories were closed. Showrooms were closed. People were told to stay home and to stay away from public places. Look at this chart here. All sales of cars were down.
Oh, looks
so
like
the FUDsters, they grab onto a little bit of information. They only give you a piece of it. And their story is Tesla's lost demand for the Model 3 in China. No, it hasn't. It's just that coronavirus kind of takes over the entire economic outlook.
Right. Wow.
As it has with the stock market, as it has with the economy of China.
Right.
In fact, take a look at this. NASA and the European Space Agency have pollution monitoring satellites and have detected significant decreases in nitrogen dioxide over China. So take a look at this one.
Okay. That looks bad.
And now take a look at this one.
So is coronavirus filtering nitrogen dioxide?
No, it's just that there's evidence that the change is at least partially related to the economic slowdown following the outbreak of coronavirus. Think of what happens. Less people on the roads, less people in factories, right? Everyone's just staying home, hunkering down, and you're burning less stuff. And so again, this goes back to the FUDsters. They try and find some little tidbit of something they can grab onto and scare you to death and make you think that, oh, it's all falling apart for Tesla. Well, if it's falling apart for Tesla, it's falling apart for everybody.
Wow.
And in fact, check a look at this video. This is a large shipment of Model 3s delivered in Taipei, Taiwan.
And in this footage, there are, I'm pretty sure exactly, 734 Model 3s.
How do you know that?
I counted.
Wow. Now, since we're talking about auto sale declines, take a look at this. New South Wales, Australia saw a decline in traditional auto sales of 8.4% in 2019. Pretty bad, huh? But Tesla sales almost doubled from the previous year. And in the fourth quarter of 2019, Tesla made it into the top 10 of brands sold in New South Wales.
Wow. And 15th place for the entire year.
But Model 3 just started being delivered there in August of 2019. So it wasn't even sold for a full year.
Wow.
So just wait till we've had a full year's worth of data from 2020, and I'll bet Tesla will be in the top 10. So last week, the Monterey County Planning Commission unanimously approved a joint project between Tesla and PG&E to build a facility at Moss Landing on California's coast that will store, get this, over 1.1 gigawatt hours of wind and solar power.
The project will include 449 Tesla Megapacks, each of which stores 2,673 kilowatt hours of energy. That is 26 Model S's each.
Yeah, that'll be more capacity than Tesla Energy deployed during the first 3 years of operation, including all their Powerwalls and Powerpacks combined.
It'll be breaking ground this month, and it will replace 3 gas power plants.
Nice. Now, back in the early 2000s, the EPA extended leak prevention requirements to hydrofluorocarbons, HFCs. Those are the heat-trapping pollutants used in commercial and industrial refrigeration. Now, the EPA has decided to roll back those rules.
Oh, that's great. So I guess hydrofluorocarbons, I guess physics has changed, and hydrofluorocarbons no longer trap so much heat in the Earth's atmosphere. That's wonderful.
That's not what happened.
Well, then why would they? No, because then why would they roll it back?
Well, as David Doninger, the Senior Strategic Director in the Climate and Clean Energy Program at the Natural Resources Defense Council, says, EPA's payoff to big industries like Boeing, Eli Lilly, Procter & Gamble, and Koch Industries makes no sense. This rollback will fuel the climate crisis by adding more super-polluting HFCs to the atmosphere each year in an amount equal to the carbon pollution from 1 million cars. It will save industry just $24 million a year, a pittance when spread across thousands of industrial facilities. So this is a payback. You spend some money to get your politician into office, and then those politicians roll back the EPA regulations so that your business can spend less money to put out your products.
But that sounds a lot like corruption.
That is corruption.
But this is the United States of America. We don't
We're good
tolerate corruption. We're
We
the
are
best.
corruption. What are you
We're
talking
So let me just they rolled back the emissions not because there was some new study that found that they're not that bad or anything like that. It was just purely because they could.
Yeah, when you put a guy who is a coal lobbyist in charge of the EPA, this is what you get. So you know how we just did that road trip down the East Coast there? We went to Savannah, and there was those 2 supercharger locations in New Jersey that just had 4 superchargers each.
Yeah, that's the Cranberry and East Brunswick, New Jersey ones.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of annoying, right? Because we pulled in, and then while we were even there's a bunch of Teslas pulled in that couldn't charge. They had to wait for us to be done.
Right, that's lame. Why did Tesla put in so few?
Remember the early days when Tesla was trying to find supercharger locations, they weren't always welcome, right? So they had to find like little spots that they could stick them. In fact, in this particular parking lot, you're kind of way far away from everything.
Right.
Well, now the New Jersey Turnpike has just signed a deal with Tesla to add 56 more stalls at 8 locations on the New Jersey Turnpike, all of which will be version 3. Under the agreement, Tesla will pay for the infrastructure necessary for at least 24 third-party chargers to also be installed. Now, New Jersey is one of the only states that doesn't allow per kilowatt-hour pricing, so Tesla will continue to charge by the minute, billing 13 cents per minute for speeds up to 60 kilowatts and 26 cents for speeds above 60 kilowatts. And here's a list of the new superchargers going in.
Well, I mean, luckily they still let you charge your own car because in New Jersey, as we found out, well, I mean, we didn't find out what we saw, you're not allowed to fill up gas in your own car in New Jersey.
Oh, you mean like actually handle the pump?
Right.
Yeah.
They don't trust you with
Imagine if you pulled into a supercharger and it was like, no, sir, I shall be the one to plug it in.
To a certain extent, it kind of makes sense with the gas because the gas is this super dangerous, explodable, flammable thing. And there are many cases where people blow up entire gas stations just because they drove away with the pump in their car.
It's the only state in the union, I think, where you can't pump your own gas.
Right. It's un-American.
So meet the Renault Twingo ZE, all-electric, 4-door, 4-seat city car. Now, for those of you watching in Europe right now, you're like, I know that car. That's because it's a very popular gas-powered car that at the moment has sold over 4 million units.
But I mean, this looks just like the Zoe.
It does look very similar. Renault makes the Zoe, and Renault also makes the Twingo.
Oh, okay.
Now, Renault says that it plans to bring the new electric version to market by the end of this year for a starting price of less than €22,000, which is about $24,000, and they plan to sell at least 25,000 units a year.
So this price, does that include the leasing of the battery? Because I know with the Renault Zoe, you buy the car, and then you lease the battery off of it.
No, I believe you'd be buying the whole car.
Oh, interesting.
It's a very small battery. So let's take a look at the stats. It's got B mode for 3 levels of regen braking, which I know we all like having choices when we regen brake.
Yep.
It's got a liquid-cooled LG Chem battery. Now, this is a first for Renault. The Zoe does not have a liquid-cooled battery.
Nice.
It's a 22 kilowatt-hour battery. It charges at level 2 in about an hour. That's because it has a real-world range of about 160 kilometers or 100 miles. Now, Renault claims that it's even a little bit higher than that because if you're driving at city speeds, you're probably going to get a little bit better efficiency. It has an 82 horsepower motor. It's rear-wheel drive, and it's got the tightest turning radius in its class, and it will be built in Slovenia.
Rear wheel. I like rear wheel.
So Nikkei and Reuters reported last week that Tesla and Panasonic are scrapping their partnership in producing solar cells after years of struggling to ramp up output at Gigafactory 2 in upstate New York. If that caught your attention and you're like, wait, Panasonic's not going to work with Tesla anymore? I'm not talking about Panasonic and Gigafactory Nevada working on battery cells. We're talking about solar cells at Gigafactory 2.
Solar cells, like solar panels
Right.
that collect solar energy,
Right.
not batteries.
Right.
Okay.
So that the relationship between Panasonic and Tesla, as far as we know, will continue making batteries at Giga for at least the near future.
You remember 2 years ago when that guy crashed into the median barrier on Highway 101 in Mountain View, California, died? He was on autopilot.
Yes.
NTSB has reported that, it's all Tesla's fault.
Last week, they held a hearing to determine the probable cause of the fatal crash, and NTSB Chairman Robert Sumwalt said it's time to stop enabling drivers in any partially automated vehicle to pretend that they have driverless cars, because they don't have driverless cars.
It's a good point, and that's exactly, if the guy had just thought that this wasn't a self-driving car, then, the wheel wouldn't have been wrenched out of his hands and he wouldn't have been smashed into that thing, even though he was trying as hard as he could to pull it away. Smashed into the crash attenuator and died.
Well, let's remember what happened. It was revealed during the hearing that the phone data showed that 38-year-old Walter Huang, who was an Apple software engineer, he was driving an autopilot at 70 miles an hour and was playing a word-building game on his phone during the time of the accident. NTSB said that the crash was, quote, due to system limitations and the driver's lack of response due to distraction, likely from a cell phone game application and over-reliance on autopilot.
So, okay, wait. So it's not like he was using autopilot like you're supposed to, paying attention to driving,
He
you
likely
have your
wasn't.
hands on the wheel,
Right.
You're ready to take over at any moment, and autopilot smashed his car. That didn't happen. It was that he was playing a game on his phone, not paying attention to the road, and then the car basically was like, oh, this looks like a lane, and then smashed him into a crash attenuator.
Well, there was no crash attenuator. I want to remind you, remember that a few weeks prior to this, someone had smashed into that exact same crash attenuator, ruining it, and it was gone.
It wasn't, it no longer attenuated.
Right, there was nothing there.
It was fully compressed
Right,
already.
right.
And so he smashed into a fully compressed attenuator,
Right.
which doesn't do anything.
Also, it means that your car can't tell what's going on. If you look ahead, in this particular case, these two highways split in a really sharp V. So when you're looking ahead, it's really hard to see what's going on. If you're going 70 miles an hour and there's two highways splitting like that, and there's no crash attenuator, no signs, no barrels, nothing, I mean, any human could make that mistake, especially if you're not paying attention.
Well, and did make that mistake because the crash attenuator was already compressed. That wasn't some giant coming along and smushing it. That was another car who mistook that for a lane and smashed into the crash
And
attenuator.
what I want to know is, why did the NTSB, in giving this report to NHTSA, why didn't they say one of the major reasons here was that the California Highway Department didn't fix the attenuator?
Right. If the attenuator was fixed, this guy would not have died.
Right.
I mean, because no one died in the other crash, and,
Right.
and the Model X is one of the safest cars on the road. There's nothing that's going to prevent you from dying if you smash into a concrete wall going 70 miles an hour.
I just want to mention, if anybody was driving in any car and wasn't paying attention and they were texting or playing a game, this would have happened to them. So pointing out that due to system limitations and an over-reliance on AP, people are over-relying on lots of things nowadays when they drive along looking at their phones.
They're relying on nothing. They're basically being like, oh, I'm actually a really good driver.
Right.
I'm just going to be on my phone. It's okay. I'm just driving. It's okay, but I want to see what's going on. And then they get into accidents. And it happens all the time.
Yeah.
And this guy has autopilot. Now, should he have trusted autopilot? No. And nowhere in the literature does it say, like, you may trust autopilot to play games on your phone. This is something that Elon has said is a good idea. No, it's not written anywhere.
Right.
So he was basically breaking the law, and then he gets into an accident like this.
Yeah. I also want to point out, when people at work are telling you, like, autopilot's dangerous, it checks about every 20 seconds to make sure that you're paying attention. So what are we getting into? An area where we're supposed to not move ahead with technology because there are people who aren't going to treat technology correctly? If so, then let's get rid of all cell phones
Right.
when you get in the car.
Right.
Let's make it so that there's a law, you have to lock it in a box.
Exactly. that is because that was the culprit here. If he wasn't playing a game on his phone, or if he wasn't distracted by something else,
Right. He'd be alive.
He'd be alive. Now, should he have been distracted? Like, oh, does this enables him to be distracted? No. I am in autopilot a lot of the time, and one of the nice parts about it is that I can actually swivel my head around, just take a quick peek at someone. What are they doing? I've seen people watching YouTube videos. I've seen people, doing the normal stuff, eating, driving with their knees, doing their makeup, all of the different stuff. You see them distracted, but most of the time they're texting, right? So if there's one takeaway from this, it's the phone. It's not the autopilot.
Right. Electrek's Bradley Berman interviewed Kia's manager of long-range planning and strategy, Steve Kozowski, about where they're at with their EV Plan S. That is Kia's plan to have 500,000 annual global EV sales by 2026.
Cool. And okay, so where are they at right now?
Well, right now they sell the Kia Niro EV in only about 14 U.S. states. And it turns out, as Kowalski says, the short answer is, I don't have an answer. To be frank, it's a little surprising that here we are, and now we have supply issues for the globe and Europe.
The short answer is he doesn't have an answer.
Well, he's only in charge of long-range planning. Come on.
So
his only job
this is
to...
outside of the purview. This is too short-term for him.
Right.
He doesn't even show up to work until 2024.
Right.
This isn't even the short-term guy who's just like, what am I doing here? Where am I? I'm in charge of a whole thing. Oh, supply problems. What's going on?
Yeah, they keep talking about 5-year plans, but they have super limited battery supply. So they only sold 2,000 Kia EVs in the U.S. in 2019. And people are excited about, for instance, the Kia Soul, which has a 243-mile range for the new one. And they're like, when are you going to bring them? And they're like, oh, we know it's a great car, right? But we don't have the batteries because we haven't planned
Wait,
it right.
So they have a goal of selling 500,000 EVs
It's just
globally.
It's just a number. Speaking of long-range plans, check this out. This is the Polestar Precept, which is their concept electric car. Now,
is it a concept or is it a precept? Is this
it's a concept.
Concept?
Well, it's a concept.
Okay.
But it's called the Precept.
Inception? I mean, what? Okay. All right. No, it's fine. It's just a name. What's in a name that by any other would smell so sweet?
Right. And this will smell sweet. It's all electric because Polestar only makes electric cars. But there's no specs yet, unfortunately. So we've got a lot of cool marketing videos about what the interior materials are going to be. And yeah, I don't even know if it's going to end up looking like this. But I thought cool to bring it to you because it's an electric car, and we are excited about electric cars here. Nice. It just would be nice if when they took all the time to make the marketing videos, they also told you when they're coming out and what the specs are. But
what do you want to? What do you expect?
Boring Company's third-generation all-electric boring machine named Proofrock is alive. It's alive! According to a tweet from the Boring Company.
It's sentient?
It's working. It's drilling.
Oh, okay.
It's doing its thing.
Okay.
Musk had previously said that Proofrock would be a 15 times improvement in speed compared to the next best boring technology. And if that's it in the picture, then it looks like it's already being deployed. It could be under us right now.
It could be anywhere.
They're under the goddamn ground.
So, I mean, I'm wondering if they're going to try this out in Las Vegas on the tunnel they're drilling there, or maybe the one in Chicago.
Yeah, or just starts digging somewhere else.
So, in many European countries, large trucks weighing over 7.5 tons can't drive on Sundays or holidays. And that makes sense, right? They're loud, they're smelly, they're just plain obnoxious. So it was confirmed that a delegation from Tesla visited with Germany's Federal Ministry of Transport last Thursday, and they discussed many things, including changing the driving ban law to allow electric trucks to drive on Sundays and holidays.
This kind of makes sense because you're not polluting.
Nope.
You're not being super duper loud.
Right. Yeah, because, I mean, picture European cities especially. There's a lot of small city centers, and you don't want to, pulling up next to your house.
True.
And so this would make electric semis 14% more valuable if you think about it, because they can drive one more day a week. So that's over 50 days more a year.
Plus holidays.
Yeah.
So more than that.
Yeah.
So an oil refinery in Carson, which is in L.A., exploded last week.
What? Carson's like in downtown L.A.
Yeah, pretty much. This was the same part of the refinery that was cited in November by the California Division of Occupational Safety and Health for 4 violations.
Okay, wait. There's over 180,000 people that live within 3 miles of this plant. Are you sure that's where it's located?
Yeah. It's just like think of LA.
Okay.
And then think of throwing a dart and getting a bullseye on LA, and it's basically right there.
And they're allowed to have a refinery there, and then it catches on fire and explodes?
But don't worry about it because they took air measurements and it wasn't any more polluted than it normally was.
Wait, so you mean to tell me that KTLA, which is LA's premier news channel, that when this explosion happens, this is their headline telling us that the first thing out of their mouth is like, oh, the air's fine. How about the first part of the headline should be oil refinery explosion?
You care more about the air.
It's on. Look at it's on fire.
Right. So the Air District previously cited the refinery with at least 13 violation notices since June of 2018. So, and that was not even being on fire. That was just
operation.
Operation is flaring. Lighting fires of natural gas above the facility, and also just kind of letting fumes out into the surrounding neighborhoods. They got complaints. A local resident said that's the usual pattern. We report flaring, we report smoke, then they send in an inspector. Nothing really comes of it. We just don't hear anything else. And the worst is that they tell us that the investigation is pending. It sounds to me like maybe someone they're rubbing elbows with some people.
Goes back to the corruption.
To the corruption thing. I mean,
your only job when you go to work every day at this plant should be don't catch it on fire.
Right. It's full of oil. It's full of gasoline. It's full of natural gas and lots of other awful, truly horrible
And I
things.
feel like we're lucky that we just only a small piece of it caught on fire.
I mean, if you take a look at the fire here, you see that it's not the whole thing.
Right.
It's just
Luckily.
a small portion, luckily. Right. Because keep in mind, everything that you see there is just full of explosive and flammable gases.
All right, I need some good news.
Okay.
So last Friday, the last gas-powered car GM will ever build at its Detroit Hamtramck plant rolled off the assembly line. GM has now closed the plant for the next 12 to 18 months as they spend $2.2 billion to retool it for its next phase of life as an electric vehicle factory. Kind of thought I would never say those words in the same sentence, GM, an electric vehicle factory, but hey,
there you go.
It's happened. When it reopens, it'll be producing the all-electric Hummer pickup and the self-driving Cruise Origin, along with a battery pack assembly line. Now, that's not cells. It's not going to be making cells. It's just going to be taking cells from other manufacturers and putting them into packs. So don't get too excited. But the good news here is that 2,200 workers will be employed once the factory is back up and running. And they will be electric vehicle workers. Huh?
This is
That's
about
good.
as good news as it can get.
I mean, that any sentence starting with the word GM can get. Like,
it's very true.
it had the word GM and Hummer. And
Right?
it's-
If they had been doing the EV1, they could have maybe made this transition a little smoother.
Oh, no, I definitely. That's
the
why I'm
one
so
thing.
negative on the word GM, because they took my baby, the EV1, and
Right.
they crushed it.
Right.
Luckily, when we were in Austin, we got to sit in one. We're going to talk
That
about
was
more at Community Mealtime.
super
Now,
refreshing, yeah.
if you've been watching anything today and you're like, oh, I'd love to share that story, but I am not sharing a 1-hour video with my friend.
Right.
We have a clips channel where we take a lot of these stories and we cut them up into 2 or 3 minutes, and they're easy to share. Put them on your Facebook, send them off to a friend. So go over there right now, subscribe, and it makes it so much easier to kind of share this information with others.
And we'll put the link right down below.
All right, it's time for Throwback Thursdays. So remember back in January when we asked our patrons when Tesla would begin deliveries of the Model Y. And get this, our patrons were right.
Super on the dot.
Look at that. I mean, overwhelmingly, they said March. And it looks like March 15th. It is.
Boom. And
you guys are smart.
the second one was April-May, which is the second closest.
yeah.
So, hey.
We should go to them more often.
Yeah.
We should pick stocks this way or something.
Oracles.
All right, it's time for our video contributor story. And who do we got this week, Jess?
We have Rabina in the Republic of Artsakh.
No, that's like a video game or something. That's not a real place.
Well, see for yourself.
Hi Zach and Jess, this is Rafi and today I'm gonna talk about the Republic of Artsakh. Located in the South Caucasus between Iran, Armenia and Azerbaijan, the Republic of Artsakh has declared its independence after the collapse of Soviet Union in 1991. After a war with neighboring Azerbaijan, a ceasefire was reached in 1994. The landlocked republic is since then self-declared de facto independent. Now, without going too much into geopolitics, the reason why we are focusing our attention on Artsakh is because since 2018, its population of 150,000 inhabitants have the privilege to live in a country where energy is only produced from hydroelectric power. Obviously, its mountainous landscape and rainy regions make it a no-brainer to develop this source of renewable energy. Having said that, the country generated 450 million kilowatt-hour of electricity last year, about half of it coming from Artsakh, a local publicly listed company, while consumption reached 420 million, about 300 by the local industry and 120 by its population. So, not only the country is 100% green, but we can technically say that it's 107% green as it's exporting electricity to neighboring Armenia. You might say that this republic must also import electricity during peak hours. It does indeed, but that's only representing 5% of its production. Due to geopolitical threats, it's vital for this country to be self-sufficient energetically, but the good news is that it's expecting to continue developing this clean energy and forecasts to generate up to 600 million kilowatt-hour of electricity by the end of 2020, thanks to new hydropower plants turning operational. So we are talking about being 150% self-sufficient. It has been a winning formula for this tiny republic, which doesn't get a lot of publicity, but could be a great example for any countries in the world. Now you know.
Well, that's a real place.
That's a real place.
How come I've never heard of it?
I don't know.
Because I'm an American and I have awful geography skills?
I have good geography skills and I've never heard of it.
Wow. I love hearing about stuff like this.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful, I want to go there now because it's completely powered by renewables.
Right.
All right, it's time for our Patreon bonus stories. And Jesse, you know, one of the stories we're going to be talking about this week is the Tesla Sentry Cam footage, which helped save the day. So if you want to see this story along with all the other Patreon bonus stories, become a patron of ours for as little as $1 a month, and you'll get to see all of these for, what does it work out to? Like less than a quarter a week?
Yeah. And some months there are 5, which is 20 cents. So it's 4 nickels.
All right, we'll see you there. All right, we're back from our Patreon bonus stories, and it's time for our Patreon shout-outs. Who do we got, Jess?
We have WOW,
David Philpott,
Randall Sweet,
Milan Skusa,
Dennis Griffin,
Gary L. Nelson,
Damian Pellegrom,
Jonathan Schwartz,
What Graphics,
Alex Moss,
Donald Cameron,
Ishult,
Eric Rodriguez,
and Joshua.
Thank you so much for supporting us. We can't do this show without you.
All right, it's time for Elon's tweets of the week. Are you ready? This is a barrage. You got it. You stretch? You ready?
Gotta get the...
Okay, first one here is on a wall in Austin. So, Austin, Texas. It says, I love you so much. Is this the Gigafactory location? Now, I know it's not this. This is a coffee shop. But is Austin, Texas going to be the Gigafactory Texas location? I don't know. It seems
It seems likely.
Very Tesla-esque.
Yeah.
Check this out. This is Battle Angel Starship.
He's such a nerd.
He is. Viv asked, will the fins still be actuated by electric motors and batteries? And this is talking about the Starship SN1. If yes, does utilizing Plaid powertrain and upcoming new Tesla battery tech that you've teased mean a significant improvement in efficiency and power?
And Elon said yes.
So is that more power for the Starship or more power for the cars?
Yes.
So Hypochondry Pope of Mescanity says, you would have saved time if you had used the right settings first. Have you considered time travel to save time, Chosen One? Also, why were you in Canada in 1914? Why was your name Raymond Coleshaw? And why was your occupation ace fighter pilot? And Elon said, full disclosure, I'm actually a 3,000-year-old vampire. It's such a trial assuming all of these false identities over the centuries. That does not look like Elon. Come on.
Is it just me, or does it not look like Elon at all?
Not at all.
It doesn't.
No, not even in the least.
Which is, if we were vampires with him, exactly what we'd say.
Now, Elon surprised me here because he tweeted out, "I had no idea this existed. Sounds awesome, though." This is what we talked about last week. It's the Hot Wheels Tesla Cybertruck.
Right.
Why did he not know about this? I mean, Franz was doing it.
Peddling some side deals. Oh, boy.
Johanna said, "When do we get full self-driving preview in the EU?" And Elon said, "Hopefully in March." Checking. Oh, quick. Okay, great.
Great.
This is really good for us. Elon said, "Posting SpaceX videos is definitely not copyright infringement." And Everyday Astronaut said, "We love the Creative Commons-ish nature of SpaceX videos. Can we please get more of a library of clean 4K high-quality videos on YouTube? I'm still hoping to see an uncut full-res booster cam from liftoff to landing someday. That'd be amazing," Elon said.
Sure.
And
Thanks, Elon. I would love some 4K footage that we can put on our show.
And then Elon said, "Just sent a note to Twitter to clarify that posting SpaceX videos is fine by us, and we paid for rights to Bowie's song for the Falcon Heavy launch."
Wait, so if we, on Twitter, post a video of the Falcon Heavy launch with the Bowie song?
I think it's cleared, is what he's saying. I don't know.
We should try it.
Yeah.
See if we get banned from Twitter.
And then New Scientist said, "Earth has captured a brand new moon that's about the size of a car." Elon said, "It's not mine." Now, what we're talking about here is that an asteroid got stuck in our orbit and is going around. It will be escaping in April. But yeah, it's not space. It's not Starman.
Right, but it was very easy for him to check because he just has the keys and he went,
Boop, boop.
right. And it didn't do that.
And then Teslarati posted this story about this big enclosure that's going to go around the Falcon Super Heavy. And Elon said, "It's not that big, really."
Yes, it is, Elon. It's huge.
All right, it's time for Community Mail Time. We got a bunch this week. We got our friend Joyce at Fully Charged Live in Austin, who is a certified climate change professional.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
Yes.
Hey, Joyce. And we got Pete and Priscilla at Fully Charged Live. They were telling us all about how they got this Chevy EV1, which is one of only 40 in the world, my dream car.
Yep.
And then Priscilla got me into it, right? We got to sit in it, which was a dream come true.
That was
so
amazing.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. You made my dream come true. Our buddy Michael at Fully Charged Live showing off his 2 Teslas. He got a new Model X there. Really cool. Great meeting you, Michael. And we got Michael and Rebecca at Fully Charged Live as well. Thank you for starting to send in these photos, making us feel like we really were there. Because for a while, we're like, did we really go? And this is our buddy Clark in New Zealand. He just got his new Model 3.
Check out Christopher's stainless steel wrap on his car. So you can see this before image and then the after the stainless steel wrap. So that's the cyber wrap.
That's a wrap?
Yeah.
That's cool.
That is very cool.
Kevin in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin saw this sign on his local Ford dealer and wondered, does this apply to the Mach-E too? Now, if you get the Mach-E...
I bet it only applies to the Mach-E, in fact.
You get all the oil you need for the oil changes. I mean, can you go in there and be like, can I exchange it for olive oil?
Keith shared this video of the Electrical Vehicle Association of Atlantic Canada's 2nd anniversary meetup where they got to go for a ride on electric go-karts.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So this is my buddy Dave showing off his new Solar.
Hey, Zach and Jesse. Just wanted to share with you guys the newest development in my Tesla Odyssey to go along with my Model 3 Performance Stealth Mode. Grey Worm, a little hard to see, but that's because the Tesla installation is so smooth. Tesla Solar Rental, giving it a try. The guys at Tesla came out and did a pretty neat installation. I love how they label everything. My inverter there, just waiting for my inspection and to get the meter, and we'll be ready to go. So that's where I am right now. Model 3 solar installation. See how it all works out. Thanks a lot, guys. I know you were a big influence. Hey, Zach, you got yours? Soon as preemie. Now you know.
Now, isn't that funny? Showing off the, we used to go to Boston Latin together. I haven't seen Dave since I was a kid, like since we were in class together.
Wow.
But now we've been able to reconnect through YouTube, which is really awesome. And he's got a YouTube channel as well.
This one, the only quote that we should take from this is, I didn't hit the deer hit me. So
wait, he was stopped.
This is one of those stories where I feel like if you didn't have the footage, no one would believe you.
Yeah, right, Bob. You were stopped.
Yeah. Oh, the deer hit you. Yeah, sure. So Alexander ordered his car in January and he got it in February.
Wow, that's fast.
Very fast.
All right, it's time for our on-air question of the week. Remember that we have a $4 Patreon perk level where you can ask all the questions you want. We try to answer them all in a video that comes out every month called On-Air Questions with Zach and Jesse Uncut. But we got a question here from Rick. Do you think that in the EU and UK it is fair to charge £6,000 for full self-drive when in actual fact all you get is auto parking and a pretty useless posh summon function? I've just swapped an AP1 Model S for a Performance Model 3 without full self-driving, but apart from not being able to self-park, the AP2 is no better than the AP1. I have no use for posh summon at all. Tesla should offer self-park as free upgrade until the daft rules are changed, or reduce the price of full self-driving until it is. I don't know much about posh auto summoning.
Right. I have just the regular old American summon.
But yeah, so I mean, I think you have to keep in mind that full self-driving is an evolving software feature. And if you don't like what it's doing right now and you don't want it, you don't have to pay for it. But keep in mind, it is going to go up in price. I mean, there's just no question that when a car can fully self-drive, the value of that software hardware package is going to be far more than $7,000.
Right. And that's what you're paying for.
Right.
You're not paying for posh auto summon.
Right.
You're paying for a lower price of full self-driving in the future. It's like paying for early access software or video games, right? Like, oh, it doesn't have the full campaign or the whole story. It's just a little pack. It's just an alpha release, right?
And I want to disagree. He says that AP2 is no better than AP1. I drive a car with AP1 and I drive cars with AP2. I think AP2 is a lot better than AP1. It's just, it may be hard to see, like, it may not feel like double as good or something like that, but it's a lot smarter.
Right. And I mean, you got to keep in mind that this is a long-term thing, a long-term goal. So on our Patreon poll this week, we asked, should private companies be allowed to charge at public chargers? Now, this was part of a question sent to us by one of our patrons.
He went to try and charge his car at a public charging station, and all of them were taken up by a ride-sharing service.
Right. And so, this was in the middle of the night.
Right. So he had no options.
Right.
So we got back kind of a mixed bag here.
Yeah.
87 people said yes, of course. Corporations are people too. 105 said nope, the public paid for the infrastructure, only individual citizens should get to use it, and 72% said not sure.
Right. It's kind of a mixed bag. It's kind of like you got to be pretty precise when we're saying public chargers.
Right.
Is this just a charger that was put in by a local business, or is this a municipal charger?
Right.
Is this a charger that's put in by a car company like with Tesla? There's a lot of different questions here, and then it's like, how are you using them? Are you standing there charging up the car, and as soon as you're done, you leave, or are you leaving them overnight?
Right.
Like in this case,
yeah, that's
preventing
not cool.
people from charging. I think that under charging etiquette is not cool.
No. All right, it's time for our Supercharger reviews. We are sponsored by our friends at Evannex, and I just wanted to point out that Evannex is a family-owned company. We know them. We've worked with them. We didn't just decide to get sponsored by someone we don't work with. We've used their products for years. Mm-hmm. We know them. They're super friendly, and we love to work with them. So if you're looking for awesome accessories for your Tesla, check out Evannex and use our discount code to save you even more.
Hi Zach, hi Jesse. Nice greetings from Germany. Here is the 8-stall Supercharger in Lauenau on the German Autobahn A2. Nearby is a gaming hall and a nice restaurant. And I rated 8 out of 10. Bye.
Hey Zach and Jesse, this is Brian coming to you from Orleans, Massachusetts. This is a 12-stall Supercharger just installed, opened up on December 7th, right in the elbow of Cape Cod. This is located in the back of the parking lot of the Stop and Shop here in Orleans. And also in this parking lot, we also have TJ Maxx, there's a Papa Gino's. Just across the street, there's a great restaurant that's open seasonally called The Knack, where you can get seafood and hamburgers. There's a Starbucks that's right here on this end of the Stop and Shop. So I guess on the whole, I think I'd give this location about an 8 out of 10 to come here. It's a pretty well lit location, and as I said, there are a number of things within walking distance. If you walked a little bit further, there are other restaurants, including a Wendy's over here. There's Chinese restaurants. The local Scoop is a great local ice cream location. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for this location. So there you have it. Now you know.
Hi everyone, this is Michael, and I am thrilled to be coming to you from my hometown of Fairfield, Connecticut, where the very first version 3 superchargers in the northeast of the United States have just opened. We have 12 stalls on the northbound side of I-95 and 8 stalls on the southbound side of I-95. I'm only going to do one video because the amenities are the same on both sides, but there is a Subway, McDonald's, Qdoba, Dunkin' Donuts, and a convenience store on both sides. There also is a grassy area just by the superchargers. If you have pets to walk or if kids want to run around, I think this is a really great location, obviously right off the highway. Very convenient for me since I live here. I give this 9 stars.
Hey, Zach and Jesse. I'm here at the 12-stall 150 kilowatt supercharger in Kriegstetten, Switzerland. It's a small town right off the motorway A1 between Bern and Zurich. It's a small town, but it's cozy. There's a church behind me, and there's a restaurant the other way, and behind the parking lot there is a children's playground, so if you're here with kids, it's perfect. Go hang out there. There's also a co-op supermarket 2 minutes on foot from here. It's perfect if you have to do some grocery shopping while you charge. And a couple of kilometers from here there's this beautiful town called Solothurn. So it's a pretty nice place, and I'd rate this one a 8 out of 10. And now you know.
Isn't that awesome, Jesse? These reviews are so fantastic. And I didn't mention last week's review.
I know.
With our little girl who did the Palm Springs review. Oh my God, that was so cute.
Yeah.
Now, that's probably going to be one of the cutest ones we've ever seen.
It's the best one that we've ever had.
I feel like it, yeah.
Not even ignoring the cute factor. Even if you just cut that right out.
That's a good point. She covered all of the amenities perfectly.
Everything. I mean, and it was a great supercharger.
And
I understand that some superchargers like, well, here we are in the middle of nowhere.
And if I need to know where to get gummy sushi, I know where to go now.
There we go.
All right, it's time for new superchargers. What do we got this week?
We have the 12-stall in Riverside, Canyon Springs Parkway, California.
Got number 517 in Europe, number 77 in France, the 8-stall in Boucle, France.
The 8-stall version 3 supercharger in Kokomo, Indiana.
The 8-stall version 3 in Deerfield Beach, Florida.
The 8-stall version 3 in Bloomington, Indiana.
The 8-stall version 3 in Williamsport, Pennsylvania.
The 8-stall version 3 in Copiague, New York.
And number 788 in the USA, number 1813 in the world, the 6-stall version 3 in Thornton, Colorado. All right, it's time for the Patreon giveaway, and we are going to be giving away the second of these Go Pucks. There's only 2 of these in the world, I think. These are Blake Fuller's Model S that went up Pikes Peak right there on the car. I want to, can you see that? And I mean, this battery is so cool. It's better energy density than the Model 3.
Right.
And we use these shooting all the time. Fantastic batteries. So the winner is going to be a very happy person.
And the winner is Kevin S. Congratulations, Kevin.
Congratulations, Kevin.
Thank you
just
so
won
much for
yourself
your
a Go Puck from our buddy Blake Fuller over at Go Puck. So that is a cool prize. And as we wrap up this afternoon, I told everyone last week that if you watch till the end, we're going to give away a little secret about what's coming up on the channel. And so you watch to the end, you guys definitely deserve to hear about it. What are we going to be doing in April with our good friend Mr. G from Mr. G's Workshop?
We are going to be converting something. We're going to be Can I say what it is?
I think they waited for it.
Okay, we're going to be converting a lawnmower from gas to electric. And we have a lot of really good plans for this. It's not just going to be like this one simple little like, oh, and it's done. Here you go.
It's not going to be simple.
No, not going to be simple at all. But we definitely have a lot of
yeah, we're going to make it into
a
multi-part series, and we're going to walk you through. There's going to be a lot of learning there, right. And hopefully by the end of it, you
could do it yourself.
Right.
That's the idea. Because
I mean, in many parts of the world, we have lawnmowers, old gas-powered lawnmowers, right. And that's the goal.
Because you can buy new lawnmowers, new EV lawnmowers, or electric lawnmowers, but they are very, very expensive, and hopefully we're going to find some cheap alternatives, and also some better alternatives.
At least it should be funny.
At the very least.
And I also want to talk about Masterclass because we're sponsored by Masterclass, and we earn a little bit of money from the show for people who sign up, and we're big fans of it. I wanted to talk about a few of the people who are on Masterclass because there's so many, I think some of them get overlooked. Judd Apatow, he's a comedian that if you've watched Bridesmaids, for instance, is the comedic master behind that. He teaches a class on comedy writing. Like, if you wanted access to someone like Judd Apatow, how would you gain that access?
You could stalk him.
You could.
No, but this is obviously much easier.
Right. How about filmmaking from director and actor Jodie Foster? Like, she's an amazing actor and filmmaker, and you can learn from her. Or acting from Natalie Portman. Or Spike Lee on filmmaking. Like, these are all amazing. Ken Burns. You want to know how to make a documentary? Ken Burns is the guy I'd go to. Neil Gaiman on being an author, like one of my favorite authors. And then Malcolm Gladwell, who we listened to a whole bunch of his awesome podcasts. He teaches a masterclass on writing here on Masterclass.
Right.
So, I don't know, for to me, for $90 to learn from one of these masters, or for $180 to learn from all of them, is kind of crazy. Because if they were in a college, you'd be lucky if you got one of them as your professor.
Right. And you're really helping to support the show. Like, that 180, it sounds very scary, but a good portion of that is actually going to us.
Right.
Because you're using the code down below. It really helps us. That's part of the reason that we did this, is because, A, we like Masterclass. We were looking at a lot of different sponsorship options, and there were a lot that were like, you need to have a 40-second thing where you say this, 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 and this. And it was like something where we're like, yeah, we don't really use it. Masterclass we use, and we can say anything we want about Masterclass.
Exactly.
And
we use it.
We actually use it, and it actually helps support us quite a bit. So that's kind of the reason why we did it. We're still watching a lot of them. There's so much to choose from.
Yeah, there's a lot of content.
I would just go check it out. Again, it's a great present. It's a great family present. Like, oh, there's going to be someone on Masterclass that basically there's going to be one at least for every person in your family who's going to be like,
go check it out and see if you aren't intrigued by at least one person there. I bet you can't not be.
Right. So, and thank you so much for watching this show. I really appreciate you watching this show every week, because we couldn't do this without you. And I really, again, want to thank our Patreon supporters. If you want to support us on Patreon, we try and make it as valuable as possible. Like, from the get-go, we were just like, how can we make this, so that it's worth it? So that way you don't feel like I'm giving to them, but I don't know what I'm getting. We try and really make it as valuable as possible. And, hey, if you are watching to the end and you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. That subscriber number makes a big difference when we're talking to companies trying to get interviews and be like getting down to the bottom of things.
And it helps YouTube to know that you watched to the end and that you liked it, and it helps to share it with other people.
Right. And the same thing with the like button, and leaving a comment that's very positive. All of those things really help the channel. And by help the channel, I mean get it out to more people. So, if you don't feel comfortable using the Clips channel to share on your social media, this is a great way to share with someone who's probably already interested. They just don't know yet.
Yep.
Thank you so much for watching. Now you know.